everyone, I'm Saga, and happy Creepypasta Day. I'm going to start off by apologizing if my voice is a little low. I'm not feeling that great, but I wanted to try and do this video anyway. Today's video is actually a viewer request by my friend Will, so thank you very much, Will, for this idea. I will be covering the Russian sleep experiment. So that being said, let's get right into it. The Russian sleep experiment was an experiment run by Russian researchers on 5 political prisoners during the late 1940s. Now, these prisoners were put into a chamber where they were forced to breathe a gas that would keep them awake. The idea of the experiment was to keep them awake for 15 days to see what would happen. So everything seemed to be going okay. They were in this chamber. There was no cameras really at that time, like that could constantly record them or things like that. So the researchers were able to monitor them through microphones and small porthole size windows around the chamber. So for the first few days, everything seemed to be going fine. The prisoners talked to each other. After the 4th day, their conversation started to get darker, talking about like all the bad things that happened to them in life. However, after the 5th day, the subjects started becoming paranoid. They stopped talking to each other and started opting into whispering into the microphones instead, trying to convince the researchers to let them out by giving up secrets and things like that, but obviously this didn't work. 9 days into the experiment, the first of the subjects started screaming. He screamed for a total of 3 hours straight and then stopped, continuing to run around the chamber, only being able to make small squeaks. It was thought that he had actually ripped his vocal cords through his constant screaming. Now, what was curious about this was the other subjects didn't seem to react to this at all. A few hours later, the second of the subjects started screaming as well, while the other 3 ripped apart the books that were in the chamber for entertainment, started rubbing their own feces on them, and covering the windows in the chamber with these pieces of paper so that the researchers could not look in on them anymore. After 3 more days, the researchers started getting a little concerned. They were hearing nothing on the microphones, weren't sure if the microphones were still working, but judging by the oxygen levels in the chamber, they could tell that the 5 subjects were still alive. However, the oxygen levels suggested that they were all kind of intaking so much oxygen that was like comparable to them doing like strenuous activity or something. By the 14th day, the researchers were growing concerned because they weren't hearing anything. So they announced over the PA system that if the subjects laid on the ground and cooperated, that one of them would be freed and that everything would be okay. To this, they got one response saying, "We no longer wish to be freed." And after that, they heard nothing again. By midnight on the 15th day, the researchers opened the chamber, draining it of the gas. As soon as they started draining the gas, all of the subjects started screaming, demanding that the gas be put back on. When the researchers entered the chamber, what they found was truly horrific. One of the subjects was dead on the floor. Most of his flesh had been torn away, and the other 4 had mutilated themselves. It looked like they had ripped out all their internal organs aside from their lungs, their diaphragm, and their heart. It was actually pretty grotesque and very scary. It took a lot to restrain the subjects. They fought back constantly, killing several soldiers. Several more soldiers later committed suicide after seeing the sights of what had happened. So the 4 remaining subjects were brought in for medical treatment. One died as soon as he was put under anesthetic. Another ripped his vocal cords trying to scream for help. And the other 2 complied as soon as they knew that they weren't going under anesthesia. A higher up of the Russian army, a former KGB officer, suggested putting the subjects back under the gas to see what would happen. The researchers didn't want to do this, but they were overranked. They were brought back into the area, all put on EEGs to monitor brainwaves and things like that, and they all seemed to start to comply as soon as they knew that the gas was going to be turned back on, because they had kept repeating, "I must remain awake. I must remain awake," and that you could see they were physically straining to try and stay awake. One of the experiment subjects actually fell asleep, and as soon as he fell asleep, he flatlined. He was completely done. So the former KGB officer ordered the gas be turned back on. And as this was happening, it would result in 3 of the researchers being locked in with the 2 remaining subjects. One of the researchers took out a gun and shot one of the experiments in the head, along with the former KGB officer. He then turned to the remaining subject, who was able to speak, and said, "What are you?" Which the subject replied, "Have you so easily forgotten? We are you. We are the madness that lurks in you all, begging to be freed at every moment in your deepest animal mind. We are what you hide from in your beds every night. We are what you sedate into silence and paralysis when you go into your nocturnal haven where we could not tread." The researcher looked at him for a few seconds and then shot him right in the chest. Before the subject died, he mumbled his last words, "So nearly free." That is the Russian sleep experiment. It's actually pretty creepy. Some people think that this was actually a true experiment that was run during World War II in Russia. Who can really say? We don't know. But that's pretty much it for this episode. I apologize that I wasn't more enthusiastic. I do really like this story. I think it's really cool. So if you like this video, be sure to give us a like. Comment below if you have any suggestions for something you would like to see. Be sure to subscribe, like me on Facebook, follow me on Tumblr. Down below you can click on some of my other creepypasta videos that I've done. And until next time, I'm Saga, and this is the end of our tale. Bye!